Okay, let's dive in. In our last deep dive, we saw the Han Dynasty's central authority just crumble after Dongzhou moved the capital.
Right. That anti-Dongzhou coalition basically fell apart, leaving this huge power vacuum.
And today, using Chapter 7 of Romance of the Three Kingdoms as our source, we're seeing what happens next, when those regional strongmen stop fighting the common enemy.
Start fighting each other.
Yeah.
This is really the true beginning of the warlord period. It gets messy, fast, complex strategies, betrayals.
Absolutely. This isn't just a continuation. It feels like a whole new phase. The source really highlights how quickly ambition and, frankly, deception take over.
Exactly. And our mission today is to unpack those maneuvers, introduce some really key characters who emerge here, and cover a major death that really shapes the narrative going forward.
So, just to set the scene, let's quickly place the main players on the map based on our source. Up north, you've got Yuan Shao near the Yellow River.
In Han'e, yeah. And Han Fu is just south of him in Jizhu. That's a really prosperous area.
Then further north, there's Gongsun Zan. Down south, Sun Jin's back in Jiangdong near the Yanks.
And you've got Liu Biao holding Jingzhou and Yuan Shu in Nanyang. So that's the basic layout.
Got it. Because things are about to get very kinetic, starting with Yuan Shao's move on Jizhu.
Right. And the source tells us something interesting. Yuan Shao in Han'e was actually short on supplies. He was relying on Han Fu in Jizhu for grain.
Wait, really? So the guy who's about to try and take Jizhu is dependent on it for food?
Pretty much. It shows his initial weakness, but also, what a prize Jizhu was. His advisor, Feng Ji, basically points this out. Why starve when Han Fu has plenty? Jizhu's ripe for the taking.
But Yuan Shao admits he doesn't really have a plan.
No. And that's where Feng Ji gets clever. The plan isn't a frontal assault. It's manipulation.
Okay, how does it work?
Feng Ji suggests Yuan Shao secretly write to Gongsun Zan up north. Propose they attack Jizhu together and split the land.
Ah, playing on Gongsun Zan's ambition.
Exactly. And Gongsun Zan, the source says, jumps at the chance, raises an army immediately.
But that's only step one, right? Because then comes the double cross.
Precisely. Once Gongsun Zan is marching south, Yuan Shao sends a secret warning to Han Fu. Hey, Gongsun Zan's coming to attack you.
And Han Fu, how does he react?
Well, the source calls him a man without schemes. He panics, calls his advisors.
Okay, what do they say?
You get two main viewpoints. Sun Chen and Xin Ping offer what seems like pragmatic advice. They say Gongsun Zan is, really strong militarily, tough northern troops.
And he has Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei with him at this point, right? The source mentions that.
He does. Big threat. So they argue Yuan Shao is, a better leader, has strong generals, and is part of a prestigious family. The safe option, they claim, is to yield Jizhu to Yuan Shao. He'll protect Han Fu from Gongsun Zan and supposedly treat him well.
Which raises a big question. Is yielding really pragmatic when you're the one holding the strong territory?
Exactly. And Han Fu's chief clerk, Gang Wu, makes this point forcefully. He uses this incredibly vivid image comparing yielding to Yuan Shao to inviting a tiger into a sheep pen. Yeah. He reminds Han Fu, look, Yuan Shao's army was dependent on us for grain just a little while ago. Why give up our secure base, our resources to him?
So what's Han Fu's justification for ignoring that?
It seems pretty weak in the source. He talks about Yuan Shao being superior, his own lack of ability, even mentions old family deference. He basically rationalizes giving away power based on perceived inadequacy.
And dismisses Zheng Wu's warning as jealousy.
Right. The consequences are immediate. Over 30 officials just walk out on him. But Gang Wu and another official, Guan Shun, they decide to take direct action. They arm themselves and wait outside the city to ambush Yuan Shao.
Desperate move. How does that go?
Badly. Yuan Shao arrives, they rush him, but his generals cut them down instantly. The source names them Yanling kills Gang Wu, Wen Shao kills Guan Shao.
So our first real glimpse of Yanling and Wen Shao in action. Fearsome.
Definitely. And Yuan Shao just walks into Jizhu, takes control, gives Han Fu some meaningless title.
Pushes him aside.
Completely sidelines him. Han Fu apparently regrets it deeply, eventually abandons his family and flees. So, Jizhu falls to Yuan Shao, not through battle, but through this layered deception and Han Fu's own lack of resolve.
And this, of course, leads straight into the next big conflict. Gongsun Zan finds out Yuan Shao took all of Jizhu.
Yes, not the half he was promised. He's furious. He sends his brother Gong Sun Yu to demand his share. Yuan Shao gives him some vague, non-committal answer.
And on the way back,
Gong Sun Yu is ambushed and killed by soldiers pretending to be defectors from Dongzhou, but, well, as the source heavily implies, Yuan Shao arranged it.
to get rid of the claim and provoke a fight on his own terms.
Seems likely. Gong Sun Zan is enraged, betrayed, brother killed. He mobilizes his whole army and marches straight for Yuan Shao.
Which brings us to the Pan River.
Exactly. The armies face off across this bridge. Gong Sun Zan rides onto it, shouting insults at Yuan Shao, calling him a traitor. Yuan Shao shouts back that Han Fu yielded willingly.
Things escalate quickly, I imagine.
Oh yeah. Yuan Shao orders someone to capture Gong Sun Zan, and Wen Chao him again charges forward.
How does Gong Sun Zan fare against Wen Chao?
Not well. They fight maybe 10 bouts, and Gong Sun Zan is overwhelmed. He has to turn and flee.
Wen Chao pursues.
Relentlessly. The source paints this picture of Gong Sun Zan losing his helmet, his horse stumbling. Wen Chao is right on him, ready for the kill.
And this is the moment.
This is the moment.
Yep.
Just as Wen Chao is about to strike, suddenly this young general appears, rides out from a slope, charges straight at Wen Chao with a spear.
Just out of nowhere.
Seemingly, Gong Sun Zan scrambles away to watch. The source describes the newcomer, tall, imposing features, clearly important.
And the fight? Wen Chao is supposed to be one of the best.
He is. But this young general fights him for 50 or 60 bouts, and neither gains an advantage. It's an incredible display of skill. It basically announces this newcomer as someone exceptional.
So Wen Chao eventually withdraws.
Yeah, Gong Sun Zan's relief forces arrive, and Wen Chao pulls back. Gong Sun Zan rushes over to thank his rescuer.
And who is it?
He introduces himself as Zhao Yun, courtesy name Zilong.
Ah, Zhao Yun. A huge name later on. What's his story here? Why is he showing up now?
He explains he's from Chongshan. He actually served Yuan Shao before.
Oh, interesting. Why did he leave?
This is key. He says he left Yuan Shao because he saw Yuan Shao lacked loyalty to the sovereign and care for the people.
Wow. So right from his first appearance, Zhao Yun is defined by this sense of principle. He's looking for a worthy leader.
Exactly. He says he decided to join Gong Sun Zan, hoping he'd be different.
Okay, so the main battle happens the next day at Jikao.
Right, the bridge of the border.
Yeah.
Gong Sun Zan sets up his forces, including his elite cavalry, the White Horse Corps, thousands of them, very famous unit.
How does Yuan Shao counter?
He puts Yang Liang and Wen Chao in charge of archers, but the key formation is led by a general named Kuai Yi. 800 crack archers, backed by infantry. Yuan Shao keeps his main force behind them.
And where's Zhao Yun in all this?
Gong Sun Zan, maybe still a bit shaken from the duel, places Zhao Yun in the rear guard. His vanguard is led by Yan Gang.
So the battle starts.
And Kuai Yi's archers are devastatingly effective. They wait under shields until Yan Gang's troops are almost on top of them, then stand and unleash this massive volley.
Roots the vanguard.
Completely. Yan Gang's is killed. Kuai Yi breaks through, charges to the bridge, and actually cuts down Gong Sun Zan's main banner. A huge blow to morale.
It sounds like Yuan Shao's tactic worked perfectly.
Initially, yes. Gong Sun Zan's army starts to crumble. But Kuai Yi gets maybe a little overeager. He pursues the fleeing vanguard.
And runs right into Zhao Yun in the rear.
Exactly. And Zhao Yun's impact is immediate. He charges Kuai Yi, kills him in just a few bouts.
Kills the general who just broke their lines.
It's like that. Then the source says Zhao Yun rides alone into the heart of Yuan Shao's main army, causing chaos, like he's entering an unmanned realm.
Incredible image.
It is. And seeing this, Gong Sun Zan's scattered troops rally. They turn back and rejoin the fight.
What about Yuan Shao himself?
He'd ridden forward with a small escort, probably feeling pretty good after Kuai Yi's initial success. Then suddenly Zhao Yun is charging towards him.
He must have panicked.
Big time. Drops his sword, apparently needs his men to save him and get him away. Total humiliation.
And then, if things weren't chaotic enough,
Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei arrive. They heard about the fighting and came to help Gong Sun Zan. They charge into Yuan Shao's retreating forces, adding to the rout.
So a complete reversal, thanks to Zhao Yun, and then Liu Bei's arrival seals it.
Pretty much. After the battle, Gong Sun Zan thanks Liu Bei profusely. And this is where Liu Bei meets Zhao Yun for the first time.
And the source mentions Liu Bei feels an immediate connection.
A deep admiration, yeah. Like he recognizes something special in Zhao Yun right away.
But the war itself doesn't end there.
No, it settles into this month-long stalemate. Neither side can really gain the upper hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then something unexpected happens.
What's that?
Dong Zhuo intervenes from Shanyan. He sends envoys with an imperial decree ordering them to make peace.
Dong Zhuo trying to make peace. Why?
Well, his advisor Li Ru suggests it. The thinking is Yuan Shao and Gongsun Zan are both powerful. By using the emperor's authority to stop their fighting, Dong Zhuo hopes to, gain some political points with both sides, extend his influence, even from afar.
Clever, in a way. Does it work?
The peace holds, yes. Gongsun Zan recommends Liu Bei be made prefect of Pingwon County before he heads back north.
And this leads to the parting between Liu Bei and Zhao Yun.
Yeah, and the source describes it as quite emotional. They're holding hands, tears, clearly a strong bond formed quickly.
And Zhao Yun expresses his disappointment with Gongsun Zan.
He does. He tells Liu Bei he now sees Gongsun Zan as basically another Yuan Shao, lacking that loyalty and care for the people he was searching for.
That's quite a damning assessment. What does Liu Bei?
His response is really interesting. He tells Zhao Yun, basically, stay with him for now. We'll meet again someday. It acknowledges Zhao Yun's feelings, but also holds out this promise for the future.
A future where they might serve together. Okay, so that wraps up the northern conflict in this chapter. But there's action in the south too, right?
Oh, yes. Tensions are rising between the Yuan brothers themselves, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yuan Shu asks Yuan Shao for horses. Yuan Shao refuses. Bad blood there.
And Yuan Shu also has a grudge against Liu Biao.
He does. Liu Biao wouldn't lend him grain earlier. So Yuan Shu, just like his brother, resorts to a scheme. He sends a secret letter to Sun Jin down in Jiangdong.
Let me guess, more deception.
Absolutely. The letter is a piece of work. It blames Yuan Shao for the ambush Sun Jin faced earlier from Liu Biao, which isn't true. It claims Yuan Shao and Liu Biao are now plotting together against Sun Jin.
Playing on Sun Jin's existing anger toward Liu Biao.
Precisely. And then he proposes a joint attack. Sun Jin hits Liu Biao to take Jingzhou, while Yuan Shu promises to hit Yuan Shao for Jizhou. It's all about revenge and expansion.
How does Sun Jin react? Does he buy it?
He reacts instantly, but it seems less about believing Yuan Shu and more about his own burning desire for revenge against Liu Biao. He calls him perfidious Liu Biao and is immediately ready to go to war.
Does anyone try to warn him?
Yes. His veteran general Cheng Ku points out that Yuan Shu is notoriously unreliable. But Sun Jin basically dismisses it, saying his own grudge is the main reason. He wants payback.
The source also mentions his family council, introduces his sons.
Briefly, yes. Sun Xin and Sun Quan are mentioned. Sun Jian's brother, Sun Jing, advises caution, saying it's a big risk for a relatively minor grudge, especially when Jiangdong is stable.
But Sun Jin is set on it.
He is. He talks about wanting to roam freely across the land, showing his ambition. And his eldest son, Sun Si, who's clearly inherited some of that fire, decides to join the campaign.
So Sun Jin launches his attack. How do the first clashes go?
He heads for Fancheng. Liu Biao's general, Hongzhu, is waiting along the river with archers. As Sun Jin's fleet approaches, they get showered with arrows.
How does Sun Jin handle that?
Really cleverly, actually. He has his troops take cover. Then for 3 days, they feint attacks, drawing Hongzhu's fire until the archers run low on arrows.
Collect the arrows.
Collects tens of thousands of them, then waits for the wind to be right and fires them all back at Hongzhu's force. Forces him to retreat. Very resourceful.
Sun Jin seems unstoppable at this point.
He's on a roll. His army lands, defeats Hongzhu's camps. Sun Si gets involved, shoots an enemy officer. Han Dang kills another. Cheng Pu chases Hongzhu back towards Jiangyang.
How's Liu Biao taking all this?
He's worried. Hongzhu admits Sun Jin is too strong. Liu Biao consults his advisor, Kuai Liang. Remember him. Very shrewd.
What does Kuai Liang suggest?
Cautious defense. Hold Jiangyang, send for help from Yuan Shao. Smart play. But Liu Biao's brother-in-law, Kai Mao, argues for fighting. He's arrogant, wants glory, and Liu Biao, maybe because of the family connection, lets him lead a force out.
Predictable outcome.
Completely. Sun Jian's veterans smash Kai Mao's troops. Cheng Pu fights Kai Mao directly. Kai Mao flees. Kuai Liang is furious, says Kai Mao should be executed for ignoring advice and endangering them all.
Does Liu Biao do it?
No, spares him because he's family. A recurring theme, perhaps?
So Sun Jin keeps advancing.
Right up to the walls of Shenyang. He lays siege to the city. Liu Biao is trapped.
Things are looking dire for Liu Biao. But then, something happens in Sun Jin's camp. An omen.
A very dramatic one. A fierce storm blows through, and the flagpole of Sun Jian's main command banner snaps in half.
Ooh, that sounds bad.
Han Dang immediately says it's a terrible omen, they need to retreat.
Does Sun Jian listen this time?
No. He's had victory after victory Xiang Yang feels within his grasp. He dismisses it as superstition, maybe fueled by pride. He orders the siege to intensify.
And what's fascinating, the source notes a parallel observation inside the city.
Yes. Kuai Liang is observing the stars that night and sees a general star fall, interpreting it as Sun Jian's impending death. He again urges Liu Biao to write to Yuan Shao for help.
Okay, so Liu Biao is desperate. What's the plan?
One of his generals, Lu Gong, volunteers to lead a sortie to try and break the siege, or at least get a message out. And Kuai Liang devises this incredibly detailed ambush plan.
Another clever scheme from Kuai Liang.
Very clever. It involves Jian Mountain, timing it for dusk when the moon is low, using hidden archers, soldiers rolling stones down the slopes, a specific route for Lu Gong to feign retreat, and signal fires. Meticulous.
How does it play out?
Lu Gong executes it perfectly, rides out at dusk, makes some noise, Sun Jian hears the commotion.
And despite the omen, despite the warnings,
He makes a fatal mistake. Overconfident, curious, maybe impatient. He rides out with just a small escort, maybe 30 horsemen, to see what's happening.
not his whole army.
No. And when he's told Lu Gong is fleeing toward Xian Mountain, Sun Jian gives chase. His horse is faster than his escorts.
So he pursues alone.
Essentially, yes. He outpaces his men and chases Lu Gong right into the ambush zone on the mountain path.
Their trap springs.
The signal gong sounds. Stones rain down from above, arrows fly from the woods on both sides. Sun Jian is caught completely exposed.
How does he die?
The source is quite graphic. Struck by stones and arrows, his brain burst out. He dies right there, aged 37. A famous warrior, brought down by an ambush triggered by his own rashness.
What happens next?
Lu Gong's men kill Sun Jian's scattered escort and light the signal flares. Liu Biao's main force sallies out from Jiangyang, hitting Sun Jian's now leaderless army, causing panic.
Is there any counterattack?
Some. Huang Gai, leading the naval forces, arrives and manages to capture Huang Zu in the confusion. And Qing Ku, who's protecting Sun Si, finds Lu Gong and kills him, getting some revenge. The battle rages through the night.
So Sun Si survives. How does he take the news?
He learns the next morning that his father is dead, and worse, Liu Biao's forces have recovered the body and taken it into Jiangyang. He's devastated, weeps uncontrollably. The whole army grieves.
What can they do? They need the body back.
Huang Gai suggests a trade. They captured Huang Zu for Sun Jian's body. A man named Huang Ji volunteers to be the envoy. Apparently he knew Liu Biao from before.
Does Liu Biao agree?
Huang Ji goes into Xiangyang, makes the offer. Liu Biao initially agrees. He says the body is prepared, let's exchange prisoners and make peace.
Okay, so a resolution.
Not quite, because just as Huang Ji is about to leave, Kuai Liang steps in one last time.
Oh no. What's his advice now?
Brutal, but probably strategically sound from his perspective. He tells Liu Biao it's a huge mistake to make peace. He says, kill Huang Ji right now. Their leader is dead. Their army is grieving and disorganized. We should attack and destroy them completely.
Wow.
Ruthless.
Absolutely. And that's where the chapter leaves us. On that cliffhanger, will Liu Biao take Kuai Liang's advice? What happens to Huang Ji?
What a chapter. It really shows that rapid shift, doesn't it? From the fragile coalition to just warlord versus warlord. Alliances mean nothing. Borders are redrawn by force. And a lot of deception. A huge amount of deception. Yuan Shao's whole Jizu grab was built on it. Yuan Shu's manipulation of Sun Jian. And we see the cost of ignoring good advice, or maybe letting pride get in the way. Han Fu losing his territory.
And Sun Jian losing his life because he dismissed that omen.
Exactly. It's packed with ambition, betrayal, these really personal vendettas, driving huge conflicts and genuine tragedy. But crucially, it also launches the careers of major figures.
Zhao Yun's dramatic entrance, defined by skill and principle.
And Sun Si, now thrust into leadership, inheriting his father's army and his ambitions. These events aren't just side stories. They set the stage for everything that follows. They create the power dynamics, the grudges.
It really highlights the different paths to power people were taking. You have the cunning schemers like Feng Ji and Kuai Liang, the military powerhouses like Wen Chao, people driven by revenge like Sun Jin.
And it constantly reminds you of the human cost, the fallen generals, the grieving son, the officials who chose principle over safety with Han Fu.
So here's something to think about as we wrap up this deep dive. We saw Han Fu lose everything because he saw himself as weak and yielded. We saw Sun Jian die because his pride blinded him to clear warnings.
Right.
In this new era of warlords, what quality do you think ultimately proves most essential for survival, let alone success? Is it sheer military strength? Is it that cunning, intelligence, political skill, maybe just luck?
Or is it something else, like that loyalty and concern for the people that Zhao Yun was looking for, but couldn't seem to find in Yuan Shao or Gongsun Zan?
Yeah, think about that contrast. Zhao Yun's searching for a leader with integrity, while most of the other leaders we saw were consumed by grabbing land or settling scores. What does that tell you about the world they were living in?
Definitely something to ponder.
Yeah.
Until our next deep dive.